welcome on the Dharma journey, Michael. Pleased to have you.
Thank you so much, Lee. Nice to be here.
Yes, I met Michael, I don't know, maybe a year ago in Bali, and you were teaching at a studio, the practice that we both love. And I think I did a little meditation course with you and absolutely loved like the philosophy that you teach and just how you bring your, raw and authenticness to meditation, which for me has been, life changing. And I know for you too. Michael is a meditation teacher and facilitator of teacher trainings with his beloved Hannah, which is amazing because they both kind of like doing, not the norm, like working from home, working with your partner, and with a new Baba. So I really wanted to invite you on to kind of share with the listeners like the power of this ancient tradition of meditation and how it can really, shape our minds into more peace, more stillness, and really remove those like layers, those obstacles that keep us stuck. And I think so many of us can relate that the mind is probably the hardest thing to control. And I really want to invite you to kind of open the space with like, how did you get into meditation? I was reading your website this morning, and we did a few different jobs, like you're a chef and yoga teacher, and now you're facilitating teacher training. So maybe you can share a little bit of background of your history into your purpose, your dharma.
Amazing. Thank you. So good to chat with you, Briar. And I think time flies. It would have been 3, if not 4 years ago that you were on a workshop I ran, at least 3. So time definitely flies. But I was just thinking that you're the first person I've kind of spoken to in relation to work since being on holidays. And so my mind feels deliciously blank. And it kind of feels good though, because I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. I don't have anything pre-planned. So I'm just going to go, let's see what happens and where the conversation goes. But in terms of meditation and my past, it's definitely been a really gradual unfolding. And looking back now, I can definitely see that even since I was a kid, I had a real predisposition to meditation and an inclination towards it and a natural interest in what makes life work and what really is divinity and what's my role on planet Earth and how do those things all intertwine. I can definitely see that looking back now, but I think I started to explore those things a little bit further when as you said, I was a chef. Like I left school early and cooked for many years, and I kind of hung up the apron and went and traveled around Europe for a couple of years and just worked odd jobs and saved up some money and came home and bought a ute, a truck, and traveled around Australia for 2 years. And when I was traveling around Australia by myself, I was just living and sleeping in the truck and, cooking on the fire, sleeping under the stars, surfing every day, living in nature, and I had so much time. And I think basically just because I had so much time, I used to go down to the beach in the afternoons and kind of close my eyes and just see what was going on inside and see what my mind was made of and where thoughts come from and why does that thought feel that particular way and that thought feels like that and where do emotions come. I started asking some questions of life, and that curiosity, I think, naturally led to one book, and then it led to another book, and then it led to a conversation with another person, and meditation kind of just slowly evolved from there. I started practicing. The first technique I learned was a Buddhist technique that we were just talking about before we jumped on air, called Vipassana, and that was really, really, really helpful to have a solid technique to be able to practice for a certain amount of time. And then I got introduced to some more yogic practices. And then I started sharing and teaching meditation because I just felt it was the natural thing for me to do. And I'd learned some other techniques. I'd studied neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, and I'd done some courses in life coaching and health coaching. And then that naturally evolved into a deeper interest in yoga. And um, my, study of yoga and teaching of yoga, I feel like it took what I knew about meditation and just added so much depth and history and philosophy and power to it. And I taught yoga for many years. And then, I kind of realized that my journey into teaching asana-based yoga was really just a catalyst for me to further understand my real love, which is meditation, where it comes from and the philosophy behind it, and its connection with this yoga tradition. And so I ended up stopping teaching asana-based practices and focusing more on meditation again, but with a whole new kind of understanding and depth to what I was doing.
And do you feel like since you've stopped practicing asana, because I know a lot of the listeners that listening have probably practiced at the practice, they've done, teacher training, maybe vinyasa or traditional hatha yoga, and can you obviously can, but do you feel like your meditation practice is deeper and now you're not doing the asana component, or do you still do parts of your like asana?
I definitely still practice asana for myself. And different forms of physical activity and pranayama and all of those things to find my body and energy and put it in an optimal state. Like I definitely still practice for sure. And I feel really lucky to have that knowledge. But for me, the nuts and bolts of well-being has always been, up here and in here. And I felt like asana could only do so much in relation to that. And I really saw that too with working one-on-one with people, where some people that I'd worked with, actually a lot of people might have practiced asana for years, and it might help with their non-reactivity, and it might help with them being able to balance their doshas and to reduce certain elements that are out of balance and things like that. But, when I'd get one-on-one with someone and be able to really dive deep into their psychology, in a very short amount of time, we could reveal and heal something that, maybe 30 years of asana would take to do the same thing, maybe an hour conversation. And so it has a place, but I personally am passionate about and love what makes things work, like getting to the guts of the issue and figuring out why people are the way they are, why I'm the way I am, and living an extraordinary life filled with joy and purpose. And for me, what is going to create the most of that, or the most efficiency around that, is meditation for sure.
And in terms of like your own personal like meditation practice and what you obviously teach in your teacher trainings and your 9-month mentorship, what style of meditation now do you teach? Do you have a specific style that you from a lineage, and like maybe you can share a little bit with the listeners, like what kind of, maybe you integrate different parts of meditation that you've learned? I'd love to know kind of your style
Amazing.
that you go to.
Cool. I've had a pretty vast experience so far in life, and I've drawn inspiration from, so many different individuals and mentors and teachers. And I have dear friends that a lot of them have felt really compelled to stick to a lineage, and that's the medicine for them. And that's what supported them in the unfolding of their spirit. I've never felt like that. And so it's been really cool and fun for me to honor all of the vast array of influences that have made me me, and have taught me tools and techniques to elicit and extract the most out of human experience. And so my daily practice is really, 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 really simple from the outside, but I guess a lot goes into it when I think about, all of the influences that have made it what it is. To be really, keep it pretty brief, I draw a lot from the Vedantic tradition, which is the origins of modern day yoga practice. It's the probably oldest meditation practice in the world today. So there is a traditional aspect behind it for sure. That's the foundations of what I practice in my personal practice. But I've also got a huge love of positive psychology, and I've done a lot of research and some study as well around positive neuroplasticity and positive psychology. And there's definitely an element of that plays into the way that I practice. And breath work is such an amazing tool. So there's always a pranayama component in everything that I practice as well. And so the way that we teach our meditation teacher trainings is exactly the same that I practice every single day. There's three steps to the practice, because, you know, when we can put things in a strategy and make three really simple steps, one leads to the next, that leads to the next, it just makes everything simple. I don't have to think about it. I just sit down and do it, and it's going to support me in getting the most out of life. And so when I think about the three really great gifts of meditation and what it has the capacity to offer us, I think of the first one is it helps us balance our energy. And so, you know, this might include, if I'm way too wired, it's going to calm me down. If I'm stressed, anxious, if I can't sleep, it's going to calm me down. If I'm way too lethargic and dull, it's going to bring me back to a sense of revitalization. So energy balance is a big one. Another one is peace, like real peace. How good's peace?
Everyone wants that.
You know, genuine inner peace. I can remember I spent a lot of time in India with a teacher of mine that I just called Baba Jl. And before I met Baba, I had a concept of peace, but I hadn't been in the presence of an example of real peace. And I don't know if I knew that it could exist in that capacity. Like, and his example was so powerful in that it put a seed inside that went, holy shit, I can actually be really peaceful, like genuinely, deeply peaceful. I could be at peace. And with peace comes another intrinsic thing, I guess you could say, which is self-knowledge. They go hand in hand. And so the next gift of meditation is peace and self-knowledge. So we've got balance your energy, we've got peace and self-knowledge. And the third golden nugget, or amazing benefit of meditation for me, is being able to create your life your own way, living a dharmic life. What are my genuine heart desires? You know, what does life want to create with me, and how can I participate in that? Like, what's the most meaningful, deliciously joyful things I can get up to here in this human experience? How can I genuinely and really tap into creativity? So energy, peace, self-knowledge, and creativity. And the whole practice has been designed around those three things. And so the first part of the practice is working with breath and pranayama. It not only helps balance our energy, but the real benefit of starting with pranayama is that it creates a gateway into the possibility of meditation. Anyone who's tried to meditate knows that if you sit down and just start to meditate, it's very difficult, because the nervous system has momentum going from whatever we've been up to, you know, maybe a sleepless night, or maybe a really busy day, or whatever's been going on. As soon as we get still, the nervous system starts to ring. The more still we become, the more we hear, and it can become difficult to navigate that. And so pranayama helps bring the nervous system into a state of equilibrium, so the doorway to the possibility of meditation can open. And so start with some pranayama, and that's a whole science in and of itself. And then the second step, we call it deconstruction. And the reason we call it deconstruction is because we're looking at structures of thought, structures in the mind, and how do we, A, disidentify from them, and B, dismantle them? Because it's the identification with and the attachment to structures of thought that cloud and veil our natural and innate sense of beauty and grace. And so what kind of practices can I do that can help me dismantle those thoughts, disidentify from them, so that I can get, it's not about learning anything new. It's not about doing, it's about undoing and moving back towards just being. my nature? What's my truest nature? How can I not effort towards that, but nestle into it, relax into it? And that's why peace and self-knowledge are a part of that, because the self-knowledge leads to peace. More peace leads to more self-knowledge. More self-knowledge leads to more peace, and on it goes. And then the third part of the practice is what we call reconstruction, which is, this is where we're using techniques that come from practices like positive neuroplasticity. When we deconstruct, we rest in a natural sense of ease and perfection, just who I am. And from there, automatically, without effort, arises thoughts that feel like gifts. Ah, what a beautiful thought. Or what a beautiful notion, or what a wonderful idea. Inspiration emerges without effort. It's like if we remove all the obstacles, all the shit, everything's out of the way, what naturally emerges without effort is inspiration. It comes as thoughts, ideas, impulses to act. And the question with positive neuroplasticity, and the reason it perfectly follows meditation, is how do I practice specific techniques so that I can wire my brain so this isn't a fleeting state that I'm in right now at the end of meditation. It becomes a permanent trait. So this experience right here of peace, of self-knowledge, how can I start to cultivate thoughts and ideas so that my brain wires this way? So this is my experience of not only myself, but the world. So when I open my eyes after meditation, I see the whole world as this, lit up. And then that sense of self-assurance, confidence, self-knowledge that we start to cement with reconstruction, then re-inspires and re-empowers the deconstructive journey and allows us to go deeper than ever before. And, you know, these two pieces of the puzzle start to work together. Whenever we talk about human growth and human potential in any field, whether it's meditation or anything else, there's always two sides to the equation, always. One of them is, okay, we've got to get rid of what no longer works. We've got to pull it apart. We've got to dismantle it. We've got to process it. We've got to reveal it. And we've got to build up a new version of the outdated thing. How do I grow what does work? It's exactly the same with Ayurveda. I'm sure you'd see this, like, okay, what foods and lifestyle habits no longer work and what is going to work. That's the greatest benefit for you and your well-being. And so the exact same thing is true psychologically and spiritually. How do we dismantle what no longer works and how do we create an up-to-date version that's in perfect alignment with our own heart and work from there? So that was a really long answer. But those three parts of the practice are what we teach on the meditation teacher training, what I teach to everyone I work with one-on-one, and what I practice every single day.
And would you say that, thank you for sharing, by the way, which I was like nodding the whole time. I loved it. It's so funny because normally when I'm in this, like in the process of listening, like at the beginning of the podcast when I started it, I was so nervous. I was like constantly thinking, okay, what shall I say next? What shall I say next? And then as you realize when you are silent, you know, you can listen more, and then that cues the next kind of question. Which for me, yeah, I really would love to dive deeper. Like, would you say for someone, I know a lot of the people listening do have a very strong, you know, meditation practice, but for maybe those who have never tried meditation or they're kind of a bit scared of it, they've tried it and it's just been really awkward and they've just been in the mind. And would you say there's a meditation practice that suits everyone, or, you know, is there one size fits all, or is there, obviously there's so many different styles of practices that we can do? For somebody with like, you know, that has never practiced meditation before, what would be like a great starting point to into their kind of like meditation practice?
Yeah, really, really cool question. And there's definitely progressive steps. And one of the reasons that we teach our training is over 10 months, is to make sure that the people we teach have a really clear understanding of how to support people that are on different stages of their own progression and evolution. It's not a one size fits all thing. It's like Ayurveda in the sense that everyone's coming with a different background, a different history. One of the things that the Vedantic texts say is that meditation has to be of interest to the mind and resonance to the heart. Because if the mind is engaged through interest and the heart's love is engaged, then the success of the practice is going to go through the roof. So if something's not working for someone, then we shouldn't do something just because the teacher says we should. We should explore what is actually interesting to me and what draws my heart in, what really draws my heart in, and practice from that place. But in terms of beginning, there's definitely really initial practices that are active enough in their nature that they don't require the mind to rest in deep stillness, because if the mind is really busy, need practices that are a little bit more engaging and active so that the mind is kept occupied and somewhat distracted from itself.
Yeah.
until there's a certain level of sattva or quietude and calm that the mind can then start to move inwards, and it doesn't resist it anymore. It's like, okay, that's the natural place that I want to move towards. I'm naturally compelled and drawn deeper inwards. But initial practices are sometimes about actually taking awareness out of the mind. It seems counterintuitive for someone who has a strong meditation practice. Okay, the journey is about going deeper within. But sometimes if the mind is crazy and it's an obstacle and we don't know what to do about it, it can be, how do I take awareness out of my own head to use the senses as gateways to build more presence? If I connect with sound, it's out of my own head. I'm no longer concerned with myself or trying to get angry at myself for overthinking or why won't my mind be quiet? If I'm engaging my mind and participating in the present moment with the senses that are around me, or using the breath's another great way, I'm actually getting out of my head. And whilst I'm doing that and focusing out of my head, the fires of reactivity, or the residual, that's the word, residual momentum that's moving through the nervous system and mind will slowly start to calm down and unwind and calm down and unwind. There'll become a point where attention will naturally want to draw within and be like, whoa, I actually feel pretty calm and peaceful. I can actually hold my attention on something without reaction. What a wonderful thing.
And then you start thinking again, and you're like, damn it, it's come back again.
Yeah, totally. And we see, one of the things we talk about on MTTs as well is this idea that came from an amazing author and meditation teacher by the name of Stephen Cope, and he calls it the first noble failure of meditation. And a lot of people, it's the same in yoga. People come to yoga and they go, I'm not going to go back to yoga. I'm not flexible enough.
Classic.
It was too hard. They go to meditate and they're like, all right, I suck at this. My mind's way too crazy, way too busy. I'm not going to try again. Or, I've seen this in meditation workshops. People open their eye and they sneak a little peek side to side. And they're like, holy fuck, everyone's seeing like Buddha statues. I'm the only one that's having this internal turmoil. And so, the reason we bring up this idea of the first noble failure is to go, whose mind's crazy? And everyone's like, yeah, mine was off its head. It's off the charts. And so people realize the first noble failure, it's a failure because, okay, I suck at meditation, but the reason it's noble is because I now realize how wild my mind is. And here's some steps that I can participate in that can actually help me so I can get control of it. Because if I can control and direct my own mind, then I'm unstoppable, 100%. And so if we make people feel like, if we can support people in feeling that is a perfect step upon the path to realize how crazy you are, the first noble step, the realization of your own craziness, is a really, really cool and important thing.
Would you say that for most people, it the the tradition that I've been, the Sri Vidya lineage, and like, we work kind of with like 40 days to really, change that neural plasticity, rewire the subconscious, and really, connect new pathways. And so I'll, for example, do a sadhana. We call that a spiritual practice for maybe 40 days. I know some people say 21 days, but in this tradition we do 40 days. And that's really to build that, like tapas, that heat, and really, yeah, that self cultivating that, the focus that it takes to kind of do something consistently, because the mind just gets so busy. Like, I've been doing a specific type of kriya called the Buddha Shuddhi kriya for a long, like maybe 3.5, 4 months now, and it's not, almost like, at the beginning of it, the first few 40 days, it was really difficult doing the same thing over and over again. And I think with life it's the same. It's like we want new and exciting things. We're constantly wanting to be stimulated. New iPhone, new, new different, items that we need, new relationships. I think we're just constantly stimulated. Would you say that the mind helps us, it helps us become more conscious, because it helps us develop that sense of withdrawal that doesn't make us so tempted to everything our senses are inclined to gravitate towards? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. I think it does. Is that are you finding that through, that's a long time to stick to a practice and a kriya, which is awesome. Like, are you finding that you're getting a deeper level of baseline satisfaction in life from the practice that isn't causing you to search for where meaning isn't?
I think for me it's well, the practice specifically works with like the elements and the chakras, like dissolving the lower parts of the mind, like our fear, our ego, our separation. And I think what I've witnessed in this process is like a lot of me becoming more aware of my really unhealthy kind of, not, I would say toxic, but very, lower mind tendencies. And I think through this last couple of months I've just had a lot more, like we spoke to that piece of like knowing thyself, like that self-reflection piece that maybe before practicing meditation I didn't really have that awareness, and I was doing things unconsciously and blaming it on the outside world, and things were not going right in my life because of that person and because of corona and because of that. And and I think since practicing this, and I don't know if it's just this as well, but as having mentors and speaking to people and elders, and I think it's just having that responsibility that I am the creator of my life, and only I can change the direction of my life. And I think that's the thing that I've learned the most, is like building that Shakti, that power. But I think really overcoming the ego part of me that wants like the attention and wants the kind of the external stimulation coming from like a place of lack, but more coming from that place of wholeness. And like, I know what I'm here to do, and I'm gonna share this passion with the world, because I know that it's gonna leave me more fulfilled than anything external that will give me that temporary pleasure that we seek. We avoid pain and we seek the pleasure. And I know that in my life I've been a pleasure seeker for a while, and now I'm like, no, give me the uncomfort zone. And I read that in your thing. It's like we need to get uncomfortable, need to get comfortable in the uncomfort. Would you say that meditation has helped you get uncomfortable?
Oh, for sure. 100%. I think that there's so many layers to your questions, but one of the things that comes to mind initially is that meditation builds, at least in my own practice, a tremendous sense of stability and awareness, so that when things do get uncomfortable, I can be completely uncomfortable and smile at it. And so there's, meditation, we go inside once or twice a day and step back. And once I stop doing the thinking and doing the controlling and doing the activity, there is just thinking and activity unfolding in the body mind system. And rather than participate in it, I just watch it. And when I just watch it, it's like any gripping or grasping releases, and sometimes really uncomfortable things start to emerge and morph and dance and arise from subconscious into conscious. And with the practice of meditation, it feels like it gives you this deep ability to be able to fully experience what's going on in body and mind right here, right now, but without reacting to it or engaging with it in any way. And so I'm this stable witness of everything that's moving within me and around me. And then, you do that for a long enough period of time, and you take it into life, and you're in an uncomfortable conversation, or, you've stretched your boundary conditioning. In other words, you move into an area of life that was previously uncomfortable. Whatever the situation, and you're like, okay, I am uncomfortable, but I'm fine. I don't have fear. Or even if there's fear, I don't have fear about the fear. A lot of people think that long-term meditators don't experience emotion. But there's been quite a number of scientific studies, and there's one in particular, but I can't remember the name of the study, so you have to forgive me or just trust me on it, that long-term meditators are actually more sensitive to emotion than non-meditators because they're so attuned. But the difference is the emotion arises and passes with great speed because there's no, the kind of, the time of recovery is so swift because there's no reaction to it and it's on to the next moment. Whereas people who are non-meditators have maybe not a bigger initial reaction, but hold on to it and keep regurgitating it and repeating it. And it starts to become a cycle and a pattern that gets forged into the psychology of someone. It becomes a part of their makeup and personality. And so having a deep sense of stability and awareness is such a beautiful thing to enable life to move through us, so we can always be fully with the moment. And not always, of course. I'm definitely not an enlightened person. A greater capacity to be with the moment. And when I'm with the moment, this is what it means. I can respond to the need of the moment. I can respond to the need of the moment. How can I be of service here? How can I be of service? How can I bring heart to this moment? How can I bring consciousness here? If there's not that level of stability and awareness and capacity, then, we're going to come from a place of reactivity. Yeah.
And how is that manifested in, because you obviously with your partner Hannah, and I think you guys have beautiful like relationship, and obviously all relationships have their ups and downs, but like how has meditation like helped evolve your relationship? And I saw you wrote this things like, when people are having trouble loving currently, it's because they have an old love that they have never given up. And I don't know, that really spoke to me because me and my partner, the last 2 years have had a lot of things come up, and really committing to this kind of healing path of devotion together. And it's definitely not the easiest path, but it's really, I do think that that part of reactivity, that old wound of identifying, our partner being our caregiver or whatever, identity we give them. And I would love to like see how, meditation's kind of helped you and your relationship blossom into such a loving and respectful, sacred partnership.
I think before I was with Hannah, I was already working as a life coach and running meditation courses and things like that. And I felt like I definitely had a pretty, I was most of the time really happy and everything was going good. But I didn't even realize that there was such a I was so confined and limited in happiness and the well-being. It's like I was in a pretty small circle and everything in here was great. Life was good, but the my capacity to love was limited for sure. My capacity for intimacy was limited. My capacity for finance and abundance was limited. I didn't even realize this at the time because that life was a stretch from whatever life I lived before that. But then, meeting Hannah and meeting someone that I just felt so deeply connected with and committed to kind of gave me a good enough reason to want to stretch that into this. And so there's definitely been moments when there's been challenges, but one cool thing I love about us is that we've never been under the illusion that it has to be perfect all the time. We've never been under the illusion that we have to feel love all the time. What a trap that is. Imagine if the first moment you're in a relationship and you feel like, I don't love this person right now. Holy fuck, is this the end? Are we going to break up? That's all the time. I'm like, there's a deeper thing knowing my love for her, but there's so often moments where it's like, I don't feel love right now. And that's so cool. I feel maybe anger, or I feel frustration, or I feel an array of different things, but that doesn't mean it's the demise of the relationship. That means that I need to make some space to go and inquire within what's going on here. What is it within me that is finding this challenging? What is it within me that is reacting to her being like that? What is it within me that needs her to be like this in order for things to be right? And she does the same thing, obviously. And so we're under no illusion that has to be perfect. And I think that's been such an amazing foundation for what we have going into. It's cool, it's cool. It's all good. We're allowed to have, we're allowed to yell at each other if we want to.
Yeah.
And we're allowed to love so deeply as well, without boundaries. And if she gets super pissed at me for whatever reason, I know she's not going to leave me.
Yeah.
She might one day if I was continually a dick. But I know that you kind of get what I'm saying. Like, I think, and that's why we are strange. Hannah's 10 years younger than me. So she's, I'm just about to turn 38 and she's 27. And so she's, I felt I was about to say I'm pretty young, but I'm not that young anymore, but she's still pretty young. But for people our age, we're pretty big advocates for marriage, which is weird because like the thing with marriage, it's like a kind of religious thing. It's such a conformist thing in a lot of ways. And I used to always think I'd never get married. I'm not getting married. And Hannah was the same. She's like, I'm not getting married. We both came from divorced parents. So we're like, we're not getting married. And then we met each other and we're like, wow, we really want to get married. And we didn't think much would change. We got engaged in the Himalayas in India, and 1 month later we're in a tiny little town in New Zealand, eloping at this courthouse in the middle of nowhere with a few of our best friends flew over from Australia to meet us there, and it was like the best day ever. But we didn't think much would change, but something did. Like there was this really cool, like I don't know if our marriage will last forever or not, and I I would rather be honest and real and than try to make it work,
Yeah.
But there was this renewed depth of commitment, like this. It's kind of what we're saying about meditation. Like the marriage feels like it's like this stability. And so there's all these seas and things come and go, and there's love and there's anger and there's hate and there's frustration and there's more love and there's hilarity and there's everything in between. Yeah. But there's this thing like, oh, we're not going anywhere. We've got a kid. We've got an amazing family. We've got so much potential with what we can create in the world. And that's the thing that, yeah, it really feels like that with marriage. And so that was something that really surprised me about getting married. but anyway, to kind of answer your question.
I love it. Tell me more. How did you propose? I love listening to people's like that moment of like she did you know when you first met her she's the one, like she's my wifey for lifey, or like was it like a gradual process or
All right. So that whole story. Okay, so we were working together. I had a business at the time called Holy Human, which was a holistic education business, holistic health education, and Hannah was working with me. She actually was a client first, and then she evolved from client into
breaking all the rules?
breaking all the rules, and then she was working with me, helping me out. And at the time, I had a girlfriend, and she lived in Bali, and so there was a lot of time where we weren't together. But I was spending so much time with Hannah through work. But there was always this boundary thing because I had a girlfriend, so we just became really, really good friends. And we never really entertained the idea because I was kind of like her boss in a way, and she was, just such great friends. I remember my sister when we'd hang out, she's like, "Oh my God, you two are like an old married couple." We just got each other.
Yeah.
At some point, it no longer worked out with that girlfriend I had, so we broke up. And then as soon as we broke up, it was like that thing that boundary was just moved, and there was all these weird feelings. I was like, "Oh fuck, oh no, what's this?" It was so awkward because we'd known each other for like over a year, really, really closely, as friends, as colleagues, as all these things. And it was super awkward. And I remember we went for a walk up this rainforest one day, and there was a bit of like a creek, and had to kind of hop rock from rock. And I kind of held out my hand and helped her across the rocks. And it was one of those real awkward moments where I was like kind of holding a hand, and we looked at each other's eyes, and I looked back down and looked away. We're like, "Oh fuck, what is this?"
Did you kiss her? Did you pash her?
Not that moment. I think that night we were texting, and I said, I kind of enjoyed holding your hand today. And I was like, send. And then it's just crickets in space, and like, oh my God, and she wrote back, "Yeah, me too." And I was like, "Woo." And then it wasn't long after that we kissed. And then we would, it was only a couple of weeks, if not a month later, we were looking for houses to move in together.
Wow.
So it was from that moment, it was just pretty much full steam ahead.
Love it.
And as I did a lame proposal because we were in India, and it was a bit heat of the moment, and I didn't even have a ring. And so we were just up on this, we did this big full day hike up to the top of a Himalayan mountain, and did the usual thing, got down on a knee, but I took a ring off her right hand, and then I put it on her left because I didn't have a ring. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is the worst proposal ever."
Oh wow.
But then we went down to the city, and we went ring shopping and things like that.
Amazing.
Made it official.
Oh, I love hearing that. It's so beautiful. Like, and I think that like tying it back to the meditation aspect, when we know ourselves, I think choosing a partner and really well attracting the right partner because we're on the similar level of growth and exploration. And I think that's, I guess, I feel like when you do that self-study, that swadhyayana, like to know yourself, you naturally will attract someone on that vibration. Which I really believe because me and my partner George and we met at the practice, and I knew that from that moment on, like it kind of grew on me. It wasn't like a hot thing straight away, but I knew from that moment on, it's like the fact that we met doing something I'm so passionate about and that's changed my life. I'm like, yeah, he's the one, like, and it felt for me like that moment of, coming home.
Yeah, amazing. I just remembered something as well to kind of add to the story about synchronicity and alignment and all those kind of things. There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons why the meditation teacher training I run is called Fire and Water. It's like one of those conversations that would take way too long. It's very multifaceted. But it's funny that Hannah, I'm such a kind of watery person by nature, and Hannah's so fiery. And so we have these complementary opposites where what I realize is, thinking about how meditation helps, there's this really cool quote by Tony Robbins, and I'm probably paraphrasing here because it's not exact, but he says something like, the thing you hate about your partner or lover, or what does he say? The very thing that attracts us to a person initially, if we're attracted because we want to awaken that within ourselves. But if we don't do it, if we fail to awaken that capacity, we end up resenting them for it. So something like that. And so, anytime I fail to be really proactive and really boundaried and really forthcoming and clear and all these qualities and precise that come with fire, if I'm, sucking at that in my own life, I'll normally react to it and resent it within Hannah because she's so like that. She'll just, boom, call you out in your shit straight away.
Yeah.
And she gets pissed at me if she's sucking at being peaceful and accepting and going with the flow and being more observational. And because that's more my typical natural comfort zone.
Yeah.
And so she'll start getting pissed at me if I'm being like that and she's too far the other way. So we really balance each other out. And so, the thing with fire and water is the meditations traditions say that metaphorically speaking, fire and water, or Agni and Soma, when balanced, create the perfect inner environment for the blossoming of the state of meditation. And so I see our relationship as if we can manage to stay balanced with one another and finding the middle point where I'm awakening the fire within myself and she's awakening the water within herself. We're finding this sweet middle point where we can really find harmony. But if I go back way before I met Hannah, 9 years ago, when I was in the Hawaiian island of Kauai, and I was sleeping out in a hammock under the stars on this amazing beach called Kolalau, which was like something like a 21 or 22 kilometer walk just to get to, and there's no road, so you just had to walk in and carry everything. And I spent 2 weeks at that beach, and it was such a beautiful spot. And in the next beach over, you had to kind of swim around a headland to get to this next beach. There was some really amazing caves. And every day when I was at that beach, I would go and meditate in those caves and just had so many beautiful moments and so many amazing realizations. But I won't go too much into the story. But the key things I kind of realized was the importance of balancing observation and action in our life in terms of the qualities of fire and water. And if we can find the sweet middle point between being and becoming and observation and action, where's that sweet middle point? Then that's how can I be emotionally aware but not stagnant? How can I be emotionally aware but not throwing blame about the way I feel to others? So be fully aware and connected and observant, but also being productive and proactive and bringing my best foot forward, balancing fire and water. That's what I started to realize. Before I, learned anything about the yoga tradition and fire and water, I learned meditations about balancing fire and water. And so when I was reading some online studies with David Frawley, and I read this line, Agni and Soma is the foundation for causing balance for a meditation to blossom, I had these goosebumps all up and down my body. But anyway, the last day I was meditating in that cave, and I was sitting there thinking about balancing fire and water. And just before I was about to leave this place called Kolalau, I was just meditating, there was just stillness and silence. Then this thunderous voice that was mine but not mine came within really clearly and just said, "You'll marry a lady named Hannah." And I was like, whoa, okay, cool. And I think for a few months after that, I was like, when I was still in Kauai, I was like going around going, "Hannah, any Hannahs around here? Where's the Hannahs?" And then I completely forgot about it.
No way.
Forgot about it for years. And so this goes back to your question. Did you think, oh, maybe she's the one to marry or something like that? Years later, when we just started dating, I remember I like to write, and I haven't written much in the last few years, but I used to write a lot of stories, and I wrote an ebook once, and I was reading Hannah a story about my time in all that, and I was reading it, and I remember it, and I was like, what? I looked at her and I just thought, wow, wow, here we go. Holy shit. All these years later,
And was Hannah into meditation when you met her, or did you guide her into
she
meditation?
was, she was getting more and more, definitely getting more and more into it. She had a very natural interest because when she was maybe 14 or so, she went through some really hard times. Her parents were having issues, and her cousin's girlfriend, who she was really close with, died in a car accident. And so she was just exposed in a short amount of time to a lot of contrast. And things went a little bit skewy for a while. And an amazing family friend, or a friend of a friend, and a lady came to the house and spoke to Hannah and supported her and offered her some guidance in some, different methodologies and things like that. And it really made her interested in well-being and spirituality and affirmative thinking and all things like that. So she at that stage, she was getting more and more interested in meditation, but she definitely had a background in understanding her capacity to create her own life and using the laws of nature to her own advantage.
And would you say that because I know a lot of the people listening, and I reckon so many people would want me to ask this question, which just came up to me in the moment of like, would you say that for a relationship to flourish, that you need to have similar interests like meditation? Like, would you reckon you could be with someone that was not interested in meditation? Because I know a lot of people listening have partners that are maybe not so eager to meditate, and for them it's such a pivotal part of their life, and they want to share that with others naturally, but other people have that resistance and don't want to develop it yet.
I mean, I know my initial response would be like, yeah, it's definitely helpful to have someone who has similar interests. But then the next thing that went through my mind is so many examples of relationships I know where there's not, and they're amazing relationships because they absolutely respect who the person is. So I would say, like, if you were starting a relationship and you looked at your partner and thought, without meditation, they're not enough, like, I don't have innate respect for who they are, then there's always going to be a problem.
Yeah.
I think if you start a relationship and you're already thinking about how to change the person for your own, there's a freaking problem anyway.
Definitely me.
Like alarm bells. Like, you can stay with me, but here's the conditions, here's the criteria. Like, I think if you can look at someone and go, wow, they're an incredible person, I see them. I don't have to change them. I don't have to fix them. Look at them. Wow. I want to be with them. I love them in my heart. Then, who gives a shit if they meditate or not? If, they might have their own way of finding what we find through meditation.
Exactly. Like surfing.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I don't think it's necessary. If, it's often we get so entrenched in and rigid about a certain path that we start to think whatever anyone else is doing is wrong.
Yeah.
This isn't only talking about a relationship. This is talking about our relationship with fellow humans. We start to think they are wrong because they're not doing it my way. Are you kidding? Imagine if everyone did the same shit. There'd be no variety with which to draw inspiration from. The only way we come to new conclusions about what we want is through the observation of variety. And I think there's absolutely no need for us there shouldn't be a need for us to need other people to do what we do in order to feel good. If I need you to act a certain way for me to feel good, my happiness is very conditional and my practice is not working.
Yeah.
The purpose of meditation is to develop unconditional happiness, meaning regardless of the prevailing conditions, there's a baseline sense of satisfaction.
I hope. And I really love that, because honestly, like, everyone used to say like, look, yoga is life changing, and I never really got what they meant. And when I started practicing Bikram vinyasa, like, yes, I looked great in my Lululemons, and I was in Australia doing like power vinyasa, and kind of with the, I don't know if you know Duncan, and doing all like the
Yeah.
that kind of like power, which I love. That's like what I needed to get into that my beginning of yoga. But then I realized I was I was never meditating. I was teaching, but I wasn't meditating. And I was like, how can I teach meditation when I don't even teach meditation? And it was only since, coming to Bali by accident, and, you know, being with the practice and teaching with different teachers and learning, more of the traditional Tantra Hatha yoga practices, that have really realized like how yoga it really is does change your life, if you, even not if you practice the right yoga, because there's no really right yoga. It's everyone, like you said, some people will do surfing, and some people will do gardening, and that will be their connection to nature, to source, to divinity, whatever you want to call it, God, um, and I think for me, that, yeah, the more that I connect in with that part of myself, that peace and that stillness, that I can tap into that, at any point, and that really does, I think, radiate within. And I don't know if you tell if someone meditates or not. Like, can you pick it up? Are you quite Have you got that kind of perception, or do you not really tune into that?
I was thinking about this recently, and I don't know if it's whether someone meditates or not, but I definitely have had so many times where I see someone and we look at each other and we kind of go, "Hi, you?" Like, I know you. I see. Yeah, there's something,
Mm,
and then we'll start talking. Sometimes it'll be meditation. Sometimes they will just have a really similar interest, and so there's a likeness that makes them light up to me.
yeah.
And other times it might be that they have, yeah, certain spiritual practice, even Christianity, or maybe something to do with nature. But yeah, definitely, um, there's a recognition. I think
Yeah.
there's a seeing of self in other. And what I'm enjoying about meditation is that the deeper my own practice goes over years, the definition of self broadens and expands more and more and more. When we talk about deconstruction, to the degree that I deconstruct my identity and the way it intertwines with my personality, to that degree, I fall into and open into a more boundless sense of self. And so my capacity to see self in other broadens as well. I used to only be able to see self in other if they did kind of what I did, hence if they meditated as well, or
Mm,
if they were a surfer as well.
mm,
There's a likeness there. But as self broadens, I can see more of self in other. And as I recognize this inherent baseline goodness in myself, I see it in a broader and broader number of humans. And I feel like that opens a capacity to connect and see the likeness in more and more people, regardless of whether they meditate or not. But can
mm.
definitely still, yeah, when there's someone has a spiritual practice like that, there's some kind of, in meditation and Ayurveda, we often call it tejas, like a luminosity
Yeah.
that can be somehow recognized through the eyes, or yeah,
The
that's
sparkle.
one of the things that led me to um, spending time with Babaji in India, was that radiance and the luminosity, that because if you hang out in Delhi and Rishikesh, the amount of Babas you see walking around in saffron robes is out of control.
Baba.
But yeah,
How did you
the
find your, would you say, guru, or your kind of, mentor? How did he come to you? You go to India, and you found him? Because there's a part of me that's like, I want to go to India and find my guru, even though the guru is within and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, I mean, for
how did
sure.
that happen?
Yeah, wow. I've had um, that particular meeting. I I remember I was in Delhi, and I woke up and I'd had diarrhea for about 2 months.
Standard.
And like, initiation into India,
Mm.
if I can get through the diarrhea, then I'm good.
Tick you off.
Um, yeah. And I remember just having this discontentment. I was just like, what am I doing here in India? So far I've been in India and we've been sightseeing and we've been partying a little bit and we've had diarrhea. I'm like, what am I actually doing in India? Like, I had this thought, what am I actually doing here? Why did I come to India in the first place? What am I doing here? And the kind of friction caused me to ask that question. What am I really doing in India? And I relaxed into meditation with that question in mind, but at the same time letting it go. And this sounds nearly cliche, but in my mind's eye, I saw this Baba Ji with this, the dot here and the white thing in the middle of the red dot and the saffron robes but I saw him very clearly and distinctly. And I just didn't think much about it because at that point it seemed like a standard looking Indian guru. And my friend and I, we went out into Delhi and we just got lost walking around the streets and eating food and looking at the sights. And we had no idea where we were or where we were going, but I was looking at some particular shop and my friend actually went off and started talking to this Babaji. And I look over and wonder who's my friend talking to. And then whoa, there's the exact face I saw this morning. And I was actually in a little bit of disbelief. And so I stood back for 5 minutes or so just watching. I didn't want to go over there. I was a bit like kind of nervous or something. And then when I finally walked over, I had one of those moments where I looked at Bubba in the eyes and he looked at me and we just nodded. And, and he was just like, welcome, my brother. And it was just like this instant, I can't explain it, but wow. And then we just got to talking and Bubba, we asked Bubba what he's doing. And he says, oh, he's just on Delhi for something, but he's heading back to his home in Rishikesh tomorrow. And we said, well, we're heading to Rishikesh tomorrow as well. And he said, all right, come travel with me. And then we, ended up spending, months and months with Bubba, just barefoot, walking through the mountains and just that really intimate time with just the three of us, me, my friend and Bubba and then again, later we caught up with him, but yeah, really amazing interaction for sure.
And then is he still with us? Like, is he still here?
Yeah.
And
He's,
are you in regular contact with him?
yeah, sometimes we WhatsApp and he's on Facebook and
Is he?
yeah.
I thought gurus didn't really have like technology like that. I think they were more
Yeah.
kind of they do telepathy. Can't say it, telepathy.
Yeah, he's an amazing fella in the sense that it wasn't until he was about 60 that he felt ready to leave his regular life behind. He'd been in training with his guru in a temple just outside of Calcutta for maybe 15 years or something like that. And he said it was never an effort for him to step away from everything that people call normal life into the life of a renunciate, into an austere life, because when it was time, it was the next logical step. It was a no-brainer. It wasn't, oh, I'm giving things up. He's like, it was so gradual and perfect that by the time I was ready, there was nothing else I'd rather do. He says, here, I look like all I own is these robes, but I never gave anything up. It's kind of like, I liken it to when my diet changed. I felt like I never gave up eating meat pies. There was a natural time where I was like, that doesn't feel as good as eating this way does. Mm. And so Baba says, if you have to give something up, it's not the time to give it up. Keep doing your work and it'll come a time where it's just a natural consequence of your spiritual practice. And what was I saying again? What was your question?
I don't know. I'm just listening. I'm like, give me more.
I got it.
It's funny you say that because I think it was the guru. Like, did you go out in search of a guru, or was that not really the destination? It was just on the path. Like, it wasn't like, I need to go to India and get a guru. Like, Was that?
Nah, definitely not. It was just go to India and have some fun and see what happens. We just were like, my friend and I weren't working. We had a little bit of savings. More like, let's travel, and we're like, let's see where we end up and what happens. Yeah. But oh yeah, that's what Bubba's an amazing man. It wasn't till he was 60 and he started then. His life became about service. You know, I think for a lot of people that are on a kind of spiritual path or the dharmic journey, the natural progression of the dharmic journey is discover who you are, B, share it with the world. And that doesn't always happen in terms of full A and then full B. It's like a little bit of A and then a little bit of B. There's a little bit of self-discovery. Then, okay, I'll share this. Then there's more self-discovery. Then, I'll share that. And then, so it doesn't have to be one step and then the other. They cross over.
And you don't have to give everything up either. You can have like
100%. It's probably like I related to a lot of what Bubba taught me and told me and shared with me. But the biggest discrepancy or the biggest thing that I never took on board, the biggest gift one gift he gave me that I never unwrapped, I said, you keep that one, was A, we shouldn't mix spirituality with business, and B, we shouldn't mix spirituality with sexuality. Because I was like, all right, that's your jam, that's cool. But for me, business and sexuality are the best opportunities to see how spiritual I actually am.
Yes.
Yeah. And if I can do it in those zones, if I can stay honestly true to who I am in those areas, then wow, that means I'm understanding a few things. But yeah, so Bubba was 60 and he started serving and sharing what he'd learned over all these years. And when he started serving, he realized that he had a great connection with foreigners as well as Indians. And he could really sense the hunger for spiritual knowledge coming from the Western travelers inside of India. He could feel the yearning. He said a lot of Indians thought they already knew, and they'd been indoctrinated through their upbringing to the degree where their hurled knowledge was an obstacle on their own spiritual path, even if it was spiritual knowledge per se.
Stop being the
one of the things Vedanta says is the biggest obstacle to self-knowledge is the belief that you already know who you are. And so Baba could feel this hunger coming from the Westerners. And so at 60 years old, he taught himself to speak English. He taught himself to write English because he would only write in those weird little squiggly things that Hindu writing's out of control. And so he taught himself to write, and then taught himself to use a computer, then taught himself to type because he wanted to be able to broaden his reach, starting all that at the age of 60, and by the time I met him, he was 69, and he was, I wouldn't say fluent in English, but he was good enough. He was good enough. And he'd do finger typing on the keyboard and to get a message across. And, but now he speaks much, much better English, and great on the computer, understands how to use the phone and all the apps. And
does he do selfies and IGT lives and
I don't know about IGT lives, but definitely selfies. And so we still keep in contact every now and again for sure. And he loves checking in and seeing how Nailu's going, and he laughs at the funny photos. And
I mean, we have to send in the podcast in his respect to honor the traditional teachings of his.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to share with the listeners. Like, I know for sure that some of them will spark curiosity for meditation, and to hopefully connect with you if they want to develop their meditation practice. And maybe you can share a little bit about your upcoming 9-month mentorship, like a little bit about that, and then guide us into a little meditation. I'll have to pause before the meditation because I'm gonna pee my pants, so we'll do a little pause and then we'll reconnect after I've had a pee. But I would love you to share the your offering with the world, and maybe tell a little bit of people about that process.
Amazing. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, cool. So what's coming up in a month or so is our next round of meditation teacher training, which this particular training is going to go for 10 months. And we're only doing one training this year. And it's a training in which you learn to become a meditation teacher. And one of the purposes of the training, other than everything we've already talked about, is to bridge the gap between spirituality and traditional spirituality and the deep hunger for self-empowerment and self-knowledge that we see in the world today. And so I know a lot of people who even have their own powerful and deep meditation practice, but they don't necessarily have the means, the skills, or the clarity or the strategy to be able to share those experiences, to put words to those experiences, to be able to do their dharmic journey, which is potentially share those powerful, life-changing experiences with the world, not only with other meditators and yogis, but in corporate, in sports, in one-on-one, in whatever arena, schools. I feel in my bones, there's an unprecedented calling for meditation globally. And so my dharmic journey right now in this particular moment is to create as many extraordinary teachers as I can. People that know how to take their own experience of meditation and translate it in a way that is very relatable, fun, lighthearted, but equally impactful, and know how to meet people where they're at and guide them to the final destination. And so that's the way we've designed the course. How do we create really, really clear strategy and really, really clear tools and understandings so that people can step into the role of being a teacher, truly being a teacher, leading by the power of their own example and having the clarity to be able to share their own experiences. So that's the nuts and bolts of the training. And as I said before, it goes through 3 different sections where we talk about preparation for meditation. Then we talk about deconstruction. How do we truly start to disidentify from, dismantle, and pull apart the greatest obstacles in our life so we can touch in on the essence of who we innately have always been and always are. And then reconstruction. How do I take what's true to my heart and make my brain and mind a mirror and a reflection of what's true to my heart? So I'm not trying to mold my heart to match what my mind thinks me and my heart should be, but my mind is a reflection of my heart so that I can experience my heart all day, every day. It's a very gradual process that is designed to coincide with a busy life. The reason it's taught over a long period of time is because we have people who are GPs, practicing psychologists, corporate bankers, the list goes on of people who, yoga teachers as well, obviously, but people who live and work full-time jobs. And so it's made to be able to coincide with and go along with regular life. It's not the kind of training where you have to retreat from life and focus exclusively on this. It's the kind of training where the intention is for everything we learn to integrate into your already existing life and slowly, incrementally up level it one lesson at a time kind of thing. So, I mean, all the details are on our website and we can show some links to that and people can get in contact with me. Anyone who's interested in the training, I have an actual personal face-to-face chat with them just to see if it's the right training for them and answer any questions they have, because I really value deep support and deep connection as a part of the people we want to train. So I offer that as well. So if people want to get in contact, they can totally feel free.
Amazing. Yeah, I'll put all your links and everything so people can connect straight to the source.
Amazing. You need to pee.
I need to pee. I'm literally like holding on, like. But then, everyone, you guys that are listening, you get ready for this awesome meditation while I pee, and hopefully, if you need to pee as well, you guys go pee. I'll be back. All right, we're on. I peed. Oh, that felt good. Okay, ready.
Right. So one of the things I was just thinking, and one of the things we touched on was a kind of simple practice that people can hopefully feel a certain amount of impact from whether they have an established practice or whether they're beginners. You know, how do beginners really get some momentum going with meditation? Another thing we talked about was the importance of cultivating awareness in terms of personal transformation. You know, awareness is such an amazing precursor to change. You know, we have to be aware of something in order to create change around it. Otherwise, it's just a subconscious habit that we have no idea we're even doing. The whole process of meditation could be called cultivating awareness, really. And so I thought I'd do a really simple practice to kind of give us a sense of what awareness is and what it feels like to be aware. It would be considered as a preliminary kind of practice that would then lead into deeper practices down the track. The deeper practices down the track would be like, okay, now I am aware of this particular thing. Say it's a pattern of thought, or say it's a big emotion. How do I relate to my thinking? How do I relate to my emotionality? Because the way I relate to it will determine what it becomes. I'm that powerful. So, you know, practices down the track are how do I relate to what I am aware of? And that's where awareness starts to blend with heartfulness and equanimity. But first things first, what is awareness? So how to cultivate a bit of a sense of awareness and enjoy present moment awareness. So awareness is the moving or mobile point of consciousness that moves through the mind. So you imagine the mind like an open field or, you know, a vast arena, and awareness can move around. And so we'll explore that this idea that awareness moves or can move through the open field of the mind. And through understanding it and then being able to control it is when we can start to build present moment awareness and the capacity of attention, which leads into deeper practices. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to mute myself just so I can listen.
All right, cool. So nice, simple practice. Maybe, I don't know, somewhere between 6 and 10 minutes. We'll see how we go. So close down your eyes and relax into your seat. And find the sweet balance between being deeply relaxed and easeful, but just enough awareness in your body so your spine is long and the crown of your head is a little lifted. Start to notice your body breathing. And just let the breath be completely natural and effortless. So I'm not controlling the breath, I'm just aware the body is breathing. So as we said, the mind, both conscious and subconscious, is like a open, boundless field. And awareness can move around that field. For example, when we're talking about noticing the body breathe, take your attention to your abdomen. Soften your belly. Relax your belly. And be aware of your belly rising and falling with every breath. So I am aware of my belly moving. Good. Then take your awareness and move it into the space around you, so you are aware of any sounds that are occurring in your immediate environment. So obviously you'll be able to hear my voice. What else do you hear? Be aware of and present with sounds as they move through your ears, as they arise and dissolve, and then the next sound arises and dissolves. Maybe even notice that when you're aware of sound, your belly's still moving with the breath, but you were unaware that that was happening. So you get to choose where your awareness goes. And from sound, bring your awareness back to your body, to your hands, your left hand and your right hand. Maybe they feel warm or maybe tingling. Maybe you can feel some energy in your hands. Awareness in your hands. Good. Then move your awareness to your physical eyes. Maybe ever so slightly move your eyeballs to the left and right, just very gently. That'll help be aware of your physical eyes, and then let your eyeballs be still, let your eyes relax. And then move your awareness down a little bit to the tip of your nose. And be aware of the effortless breath just gliding in and out. So as you can see, awareness moves around, but awareness can also expand and contract. For example, with your awareness on the tip of the nose, it's quite a small point of awareness. But then if you expand awareness, you can become aware of your whole face. Your nose and eyes and forehead and cheeks and mouth and chin and ears all at once. Expand your awareness a little more, so your awareness encompasses your whole head and neck and throat. And expand your awareness a little more so it encompasses your shoulders and arms and hands, torso and your belly. And keep expanding so it encompasses your whole body. And keep expanding your awareness to the space around you. So the eyes, the tip of the nose, the hands, the belly, the sounds, all those points of awareness you're now aware of all of them simultaneously. And for a couple of moments, just hold that sense of expanded, open, passive awareness. Allowing your experience of this moment to just be what it is. Okay, really great job. And keeping that sense of open and relaxed, calm awareness. Deepen your breath just a little. When you're ready, you can softly open your eyes and come on back.
Feel a bit stoned now.
Yeah. It's kind of what expanded awareness feels like, eh?
Oh, such a sweet feeling. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely edit this part so you guys can have it on the podcast separate as well, so you guys can just tune into the meditation anytime you want and
Cool.
cultivate
Good idea.
self-awareness.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's been an honor to have you and your wisdom and Babaji and all of the great mentors that have inspired you. Thank you so much, and your beautiful wifey. Hopefully, I can say hello to Nalu and Hannah afterwards.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. I feel like we just scraped the surface. We could have talked for hours. So that's a good sign of it being very easeful and natural. And yeah, I just want to keep chatting, but we've got to respect people's time, I guess.
No, I know I'm gonna have for sure. We'll have you on again, and I'm sure you've got so much wisdom to share. And I'd love to invite Hannah on as well, and have you both on and talk about all things relationship, babies, sacred partnership, all of that fun
Yeah,
stuff.
that'd be amazing. She'd love that as well. That'd be cool.
Amazing. Thank you guys for
But
listening.
yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And thanks to, your listeners, anyone who hears this, I really appreciate your time and lending me your ears as well. Deeply, deeply grateful. And yeah, massive respect for everything you're doing in the world and your dharmic journey. And I see through Instagram the crazy impact you're having in people's lives. So really, really stoked on you for that. And so thank you for all you do as well.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the Dharma journey. Is like we're all connected and we're all helping each other on each other's Dharma journey, and that's the power of union and yoga is to unite and to really bring our potential to life and share that with the rest of the world. So thank you, Michael. Thank you so
Cool.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. It's my birthday tomorrow, so I'm stoked that I got to interview before I turned 27. Yeah. But yeah, thanks guys for listening, and please check out their mentorship program. I think I'm gonna enroll too. It sounds incredible. I can't wait to be on that journey with you guys. Yeah, sending you so much love. Thanks for listening, and yeah, Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you want to connect with us, my Instagram is @BriarRoots, @TheDharmaJourney. Please feel free to send us your favorite episode, and we'd love to hear your feedback. If you want to reach and connect with me further, I offer weekly women's circles every Sunday. Also, Ayurvedic healing programs, consultations. So all of my details are at the bottom. Thank you so much for listening. This is really a part of the Dharma Journey movement to bring us closer together, connection, community, collaboration, and really inspire one another on our path towards liberation. Thank you so much for listening. Have an incredible day. I hope.